As we walk down the oil aisle, we're going to take a look around, but also we're going to find out what oil should you be using in your Volkswagen. Let's see. Welcome back to the community, everybody, and thank you very much for being part of it. I really appreciate it. I hope the DIY videos have been helping everybody out. I think there's like 500 up now, somewhere around there. And if you'd like to show support, get your t-shirt down in the description below. Today, we are doing the most hated thing on the internet, the great oil debate. What oil do you use? What brand? What weight? Synthetic or non-synthetic? Do you use an additive? Let's try to get this figured out while we make people upset.
Hey everybody, it's Dan Ledbetter from VW Trends Magazine. Check out what Slade has to say.
Do you have your subscription to VW Trends Magazine? If you don't, slip down in the description and get yours today. The link is down below. This great magazine was brought back to life. You won't regret it. And no, I did not forget about the removable apron. If anybody is in the live chats weekly, we do them Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern on the YouTube channel. We have a lot of fun, like a big family, 80 to 100 people. I've had a little bit of back trouble. Next week will be the removable apron video. We did the seal in the engine compartment, but now we'll do the removable apron. I'm starting to feel a lot better now. Had to tell you that. Now, you know, I know, everybody knows. When you get on a group on Facebook or a forum online and you say, which oil should I use? People have a meltdown. I don't know why. Because keep in mind here, there's a lot of people new to the game. I call it a game because that's what it is sometimes. And there's nothing wrong with that. And people will say, search the forum, see what to do, quit asking us. Well, that's what they're there for. So I don't mind when people ask. I am not a professional at all. I am not some chemist. I just did some research and I'm going to tell you what I think and what I do. And then you can argue amongst each other. So if you rub two pieces of metal together, the friction on the contact between the surfaces create a lot of heat. And if there's pressure, you too will have galled and burned messes going on. So we need oil. Two things are required to allow these two metallic surfaces to operate together mechanically. One is tolerance and the other is lubrication. So we need oil, we need certain amounts of zinc for our older motors, ZDDP. It can go into phosphorus, phosphate, whatever. I just say ZDDP or zinc, it's easier. But we need the proper oils for certain cars, certain motors, etc. First, I want to bring something up. But now here's something I ran into with somebody recently. They reached out for help. I don't have a problem with that, and I'm going to cover this real quick and we'll move on. They had sent me a message and said, my motor is running very hot. It's starting to make noise, a lot of noise. I went over a lot of stuff with them. The last thing I thought about was oil. I was asking a million other questions. I put a lot of time and effort into trying to figure out what was going wrong with their motor. Suddenly I said, what oil are you using? I'm just curious. And they said, SuperTech from Walmart. Made by Warren. It's not a bad oil, to be honest with you. I've used it before. He says, what I was asking is what weight you were using. This is a VW 1600 dual port type 1 motor, air cooled. And he said, I'm using 0W20. And he lives in a state where it's very hot. Ooh. I did explain to him that that was not a good idea to quickly get the oil changed out. He disagreed with me. I thought, well, why are you messaging me just to debate with me? But it's okay. A debate is good sometimes. So he definitely cooked his motor. It's over, you know. But 0W20 is meant for new cars. If you want to use it in your air-cooled motor, that's entirely up to you. I'm not telling you to, that's for sure. But I wanted to get that out of the way because it turned into a debate between him and he fried his engine. Was that the only reason? I don't know. Maybe the motor was old and tired. But 020 did not help out in 98-degree weather. Just a thought. So let's start out with this part first. We'll get into the weights that were listed throughout the years, and I'll keep it short and brief. Here is an original owner manual out of a 1974 Type 1 Super Beetle.
Now, as you notice in the owner's manual, we have pretty much straight weights. So we have 10 weight, 20, W20, straight 30, and straight 40. Now, what they're doing obviously is judging it by the temperatures, but you notice all the straight weights. You don't see, 10 W30 or 20 W50, things of that nature. So that's the guideline out of a 74. The early 60s, it was pretty close to being the same, actually.
Then we have an old book, Fix Your Volkswagen by Larry Johnson.
Something I found very odd, and this is a very good book. However, if you look this over, he's telling you how to do the oil service in it, of course, the strainer plate, etc. However, fill your crankcase with the specified amount of oil labeled for service SD. This book never even named any specific weight, which I found really quite strange.
And of course, The Idiot Guide to Volkswagens, How to Keep Your VW Alive by John Muir. That is really a good book, honestly, just to sit back and read. It's enjoyable. But, however, let's go over just a very brief thing about that.
Now, I've looked through this book before, and I really enjoy reading it. I truly do. It's very whimsical and something to read through to make you smile. But I could not find an oil chart in there unless I missed it, which I don't believe I did. And there's a few sections in the book about oil. At one point, he did bring up something about 1030 or 1040, just briefly in a writing, and then said all he ran was 30 weight in a bus. There was no chart, no nothing to it at all.
And from the Bentley orange manual is what I call it, because there was a blue manual prior, early 60s. The early 60s one, there wasn't no multi-weights. So they were just listing 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 weight. There wasn't no 10W, 20W. So it was a little different then. We didn't have many oils available. From the orange one.
Now, as you noticed here, we're all across the board, okay? And in the Fahrenheit is what I'm going by. We have, of course, a 20W50, okay? And that's for good hot weather. I don't like 50 weight, but it is what it is. A lot of people do run it out west. They have it cleared at 1550. I mean, all across the board again, 1050, 1040, 1030, so if you look at it there, it'll give you an idea of what the Bentley was trying to get at with it.
They were kind of detailing it for specific years. But the general rule of thumb is to, in the orange manual, is to pretty much match your oil to your engine's design and your climate. That's enough to confuse a lot of people real quick. Now, here's a general rule of thumb with it is your hot weather, say 70 degrees Fahrenheit and up, you're going to stay with pretty much a 30 or 40 weight oil. Preferably 30 weight is what I always chose, straight 30. Now remember, it depends where you live and where your temperature is going to stay. Below 70, and it starts getting cold, yeah, like that, that's when you're gonna go stay with the 1030s or a 1540. Dread bringing that up. However, a lot of people like that. We'll go over that very shortly with the 1540. However, I've known people to run 1030 year round, but remember, I live Northeast. So if you're in Arizona or Florida where it starts getting extremely hot, then you're going to want to stay with like a 30 weight oil. I'm not telling you have to. I'm just giving an opinion. You do what you want. It's your motor. But let's move on. Now, something I found interesting is in the Mexican Beetles, much hotter climate, keep in mind. The Mexican Beetles, right from the factory, 15W40. That's what they called for. Look it up if you don't believe me. Why would I lie? I think because of the climate, that's why they were recommending 15W40. So if maybe they were made in the United States, yeah, then they could have recommended a 10W30. Oh, this is going to get weird. Now, a quick way to ruin your VW air-cooled motor is to put a detergent oil in if it's been run on a non-detergent oil the whole time. The particles that are picked up by the detergent oil are usually stored in the oil cooler and everywhere else where oil can pretty much settle into place. A good question and a rule of thumb when you're buying an older car like this is what oil was used. Will the owner be honest? It's very hard to tell. Hopeful that some of them are. If the seller doesn't know, it probably was a detergent unless he was a cheap oil freak. You can change from detergent to non-detergent without ill effect, but there's no use. Just use the viscosity that is pretty much fits your conditions and climate. But a main thing too is to use a magnetic drain plug. I had to bring that up. I had to. Okay, we will come back to the weight of oil towards the end. But for right now, let's talk about zinc. I think you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, that was stupid. Okay, so what about zinc? Remember, there are downsides to overdosing anything when it comes to your vehicle or pretty much real life. So you don't want to overdo it at the same time. Keep that in mind. Keep it reasonable, but still expect some wear. Older cars with flat tappets, aka lifters, still have they still wear a lot more than your normal average cars of today. But don't overdose zinc thinking you're going to make things right. But you want the right amount. So let's get into that. Now, as you know, a lot of modern oils don't have any zinc or a lot lower of zinc. Why was zinc removed? I think you'll know why. Oil manufacturers took out some of the zinc, phosphorus from their oils because it was causing damage to our lovable catalytic converters. Ugh. Muscle car oil, aka good oil, will still generally have some zinc and phosphorus in it, as well as other anti-wear additives that they put in. And why does high zinc matter in classic cars? Older engines with flat tappet cams, aka lifters, tappets, however you want to verse it all, require high levels of ZDTP to keep everything lubricated properly. If not, you're going to have some failure after a while, premature wear. The thing is a lot of this was done for emission system. High zinc can harm the catalytic converters and the emission systems, technically speaking. So they didn't care about our older cars, muscle cars, vintage, antique, classic cars. Get it out of there. They probably like us to just get rid of our cars and make them go away or not having it. Now, what our target goal is normally, and do your own research, again, I must add that, is 1,000 parts per million or higher. My target goal is usually around 1,200 parts per million for zinc phosphate. You know what I mean? I'm just giving you a round figure. Just think, years ago, VW just was pretty much 30 weight add oil because they were loaded with zinc then. So they didn't have to think about it. That's stupid. Most modern oils don't have the ZDDP content that they did, or virtually none at all. And remember, we have to have the zinc. And even if you're on type 1, type 2, type 3, that don't matter, but I'm sure you already know this. But for our air cooleds with the flat tappets, we need that zinc in there. So what do? We can first find oils that have the proper zinc content, okay? And the reason I say that is there's a few different things you can do. Number one, we have Castrol GTX 15W40. It's a diesel oil and has 1,200 parts per million. Yes, that one right there. I believe that's honestly a pretty good oil. This is all based on personal opinion. I did a little research on it, and I like Castrol GTX. I've used that my whole life, and when I used their conventional oil, I added ZDDP additive, and we'll go over that shortly. Number 2, Mobil 1, 1550, but it is synthetic. It's about 1,200 parts per million. Although I would never recommend this weight of oil, but I am letting you know it's available. I really don't like anything that goes up to 50 weight. I think that's spinning a little bit out of control. Again, opinion. I'm sure somebody will say in the comments, I've been running it, never had a problem. And that's very possible. I'm not saying that your car is going to disintegrate and fall into the ground, but I think 50 weight is a bit much. It's just an opinion. But I did want to tell you that oil is out there on the shelf. Now, there's the certain Mobil oils that do have the zinc in them. The 10W30 has 760 parts per million. The 530 has 760 parts per million. You just got to do your research on each one. That's a low zinc content, so you would either need some additive or go to a different oil. Now we have Mobil Delvac 1300 Super 15W40. Now it contains 1140 parts per million of the zinc. That really isn't horrible. I mean, you're starting to get up to the 1200 ppm, which is not a bad thing. So that's another one out there that is decent. And don't worry, we're going to go over the weights in the end when I'm done. And good old Shell, Rotella, 15W40 diesel motor oil. Yeah, a lot of people like that oil. A lot of people do run it. Now, it has a typical content of around 1,200 parts per million of zinc, which is why it's often used on older gasoline motors, even though it's diesel, because of the high zinc content in a lot of the older cars and with the flat tappets.
Now, as you can see, the Rotella is widely available. You could probably get your best prices at Walmart. There's a lot of different, T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, and we won't get into all that right now, but it's easily had at a local Walmart to save you money. Very popular.
This level of zinc combined with phosphorus provides really good anti-wear protection. Again, it's just an opinion because you're probably sitting there right now throwing your drink across the room. And actually, this is why the diesel oils are sometimes preferred for the older engines. Not to be repetitive, I'm just saying, because of the high zinc and phosphorus. Here's a rumor going around. I can only tell you about an email. People were saying that 1540 Rotella, blah, 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 Shell, reduced the zinc in their oil. They did, for whatever it's worth, respond to a friend of mine in email and said, no, that is false. There was still 1,200 parts per million in their 15W40 diesel oil. So for those who have been wondering, no, they did not. At least that's the way they answered in an email. So take it for what it's worth, but I don't think they would have anything to gain by lying. But I'm sure they were very honest about that. Now here's one that I just think is a cool bottle and a cool label, and actually a good brand. Lucas makes a hot rod and classic car engine oil. I've seen it on Amazon. I've seen it all over the internet. I can't say I know anybody personally that has used it, but it seems to have a lot of good reviews. Apparently, their 10W30 is really done to high specifications and very high quality. And it's fortified with an additional package containing high levels of zinc. Here's the typical zinc levels in the Lucas hot rod car oil. Now, the Lucas hot rod oil is what I call it for classic cars. The 10W40 is around 2,100 ppm. That's high. That is really high. So they put some effort into this. Their 10W30 is around 1,600 parts per million ppm of zinc. They really did their work on this, and it's supposed to have additional additives in it for the older engines. So I'm giving that one a little bit of a high rating there. But again, I can only go by reviews online because I did a lot of research, as much as I possibly could before filming this video. Another is Valvoline VR1 racing oil, and that seems to come up a lot on all of the groups, the forums. I think a lot of people run that. Now, The VR1, believe it or not, contains 1,100 parts per million. I thought it'd be a little higher. Actually, from reading and researching, it was 1,300 to 1,400 parts per million. I'm really not sure why they lowered it, but I can only go by what I read online. Is 1,100 parts per million enough of zinc? Yes, it actually is, depending on your situation too. But I don't know why they lowered it. That I'm not sure of. The only thing I could actually find out, and I can't verify it 100%, is the reason that they did lower it is to make it compatible for vehicles with catalytic converters. Is because the ZDDP, I think I used too many Ds. Ugh, I knew it. Okay, that's enough. It can reduce catalyst efficiency. I didn't know until I started doing some research that they lowered it. I probably should email them or reach out to verify, but I believe what I read was true. And I believe, the effectiveness, the oil is still pretty much formulated for racing and high performance, though a lot of reviewers have expressed their concerns about the lowering of the ZDTP/zinc in it, if it's sufficient enough for the older flat tappets. And I know somebody's going to go in the comments, I've been running it, I've had no issues. And I'm glad. I don't want anybody to have issues. I can only research and tell you what I found. And of course, pen grade, Brad Penn, although now I think it just says pen on the bottle. That's been around a while, and that is a big favorite to a lot of folks. They are known for their high zinc content in their oil to be between 1,500 and 1,700 parts per million, which provides excellent wear for our older cars, especially air-cooled with flat tappet cams and lifters. So Pen is recommended by a lot of folks. I know quite a few that do use it and are very, very happy with it. I don't know why it went from Brad Penn to pen grade, so to speak, but it's supposed to be a really, really good oil for what we need. So let's get bumping along to zinc additives. I wonder how many times I've said zinc in this video. It's like a Tootsie Pop. You just will never know. If you're not using a high zinc oil, there are additives that you can use, and I'll just name two real quick just to give you an idea. Rizlon Hyperlube ZDDP. That's what I had used before, quite honestly. This supplement is really highly praised for its ability to provide the zinc that you need when you're not using high zinc oil. And from a lot of research and personal use years ago, I have never had an issue when using that. But you really don't want to use that if you're already using high zinc oils. But at the end of the day, if you're not, I like Rizlon. It's been out forever. But their ZDDP additive, I really liked it. It truly, I never had no wear or problems, years ago when utilizing that product. Now, many customers with using the Rizlon additive, I did do a lot of research on the reviews, and a lot of them did notice engine improvement, pretty much reduced noise, smoother operation in our older air-cooled engines. So I was able to go across quite a few forums. This took a little while to research some of this stuff, but a lot of people did notice a difference, and its reasonable price point really made a lot of people happy because it's relatively inexpensive compared to most things out there. So Rizlon goes high on my scale, especially if you have an old flat tappet engine. You need the ZDDP, and also you're using some with low content in your oil. So I give that one a 2 thumbs up. Definitely a nice additive. I've used it myself. Now, the Rizlon Hyperlube ZDTP additive, I'm tired of saying that word. It supplements, the supplement boosts the zinc and the phosphorus levels in the engine oil, basically raising the total zinc, sit down, to 17 to 1800 parts per million, and the phosphorus to 15 to 1600 to protect our flat tappet cams and lifters, and of course other critical parts in the older air-cooled motors and performance engines. It actually, no, I do not work for Rizlon. It actually contains even other agents to fight friction, reduce wear, and prevent scuffing, and ensure some longevity, especially at startup. I like that stuff. I can't help it. Eastwood and others do sell zinc additives. Eastwood was another one off the top of my head. But I won't get into all of them in each brand, but Eastwood puts out some nice stuff too, but I didn't get time to research all the other ones. Rizlon, I went over it because I'd used it for so long. So let's move on to, before we get on what grades you should use, what weights, let's get on to synthetic. Ugh. Synthetic oil, yes, it can reveal and cause oil leaks, not because of the oil itself, because of its superior cleaning. It has the powers to pretty much dissolve old sludge and varnish that were plugging up the worn seals and gaskets, exposing pretty much pre-existing problems. Now, modern synthetics have what we call seal conditioners, and they do help prevent this. But if your old engine has deteriorated seals and are kind of tired, wore out, the cleaner and the oils, synthetics I'm talking about, they're going to find out that for you, and they're going to squirt oil. Pretty much, I overstated that, but they're going to make it drip is what they're going to do. I know VW is drip oil everywhere, but let's not push our luck with it. They will clean up the old seals. A lot of your new cars run synthetic right from the factory. Even my Jeep, it has 80,000 miles almost on it, or maybe 70,000. I can't remember. It's been synthetic since day one, and that's what it was born and raised on. And I'm sure this inside of the motor hopefully stays pretty clean. But putting synthetic in our old engines that have had conventional in and tired seals, it'll clean the seals up for you. You just might not like the outcome. But synthetic does have a lot of good cleaning power, breaking down built-up deposits and cleaning the engine out. And as I said, not to be repetitive, you could start leaking some oil then. Now, here's something we'll discuss, and then we're going to get back to the weight of oil, and then we'll close out. STP. I remember my dad using that when I was a kid. So STP, wasn't that Richard Petty? I think that's who sponsored his racing. Okay, that just took me back in time. My father used to run that. And Kendall Oil, remember Kendall? Maybe it's still out, don't know. He swore by that stuff. So STP is not used as a standalone oil. You pretty much add it to your oil if need be. When you add STP oil treatment, it mixes with your engine's oil that you already have in there, increasing its overall thickness, viscosity, and adding protective agents, helping your engine to run smoother and longer, especially under stress. Do engines get stressed? I guess they do. It's supposed to fight wear, reduce friction, clean deposits, and cut down oil consumption. That's why I ran that in my 73 Vega, the old Iron Duke, years ago. Man, that thing ate oil. Now, STP can be used with synthetic or non-synthetic. That's the way it's formulated. It does feature added ZDDP also. Maybe you knew that, maybe you didn't, but I didn't know that years ago. Offering extra protection, obviously. Pretty much you're adding one bottle to your oil change. I think it's 15 ounces maybe. So obviously you don't add that amount of oil. If you're running 5 quarts of oil, then you deduct 15 ounces. You deduct what the STP is and add that instead of that amount of oil. That much should make sense. If you don't understand it, read the bottle. Now, STP, keep in mind, I'm not trying to be repetitive. It's not a specific weight like 530 or 30 weight. I used to hear a rumor a lot. Everybody's saying, don't bother with STP. It's just 30 weight oil. That's all it is. That's not true. I did do some research on that. Unless what I'm finding out is false, it is not a specified weight. It's a viscosity enhancer and an additive that thickens your existing oil, containing polymers to maintain viscosity and protect against wear. Often adding ZDDP, I know, for anti-wear. and it actually makes it good for boosting oil performance, especially between changes on high mileage cars. However, we don't have high mileage cars. We have air cooled, thankfully. So in a nutshell, it depends. I did some research and went over some stuff with you. It depends where you live and your climate. Now, I'm Northeast. My practice is technically, if I was to drive mine in the late fall through winter and the early spring when it's cold, I would actually run 10W30. Now, I have known people to run 1030 year round, problem free. But I prefer 1030 throughout the cold season, is what I call it. Throughout the summer, I always run straight 30 weight. That is what I like to run because it gets really hot out. And I've had a lot of luck with it, never failure. I'm not telling you that's what to do. I'm telling you what I do, and many people do it. Now, I do add Rizlon, ZDDP additive, okay? I do run that depending on what oils I'm running. But to be honest with you, it's always good to stay with the same brand of oil. I can't verify what it'll do for you, but I've read that a lot. Probably staying with the same, agents in it and stuff like that. But I have always stayed with Castor Oil GTX. That's just what I preferred. And I always ran the regular conventional and added the ZDDP. That's what I like to run. You run what you want to, but I really feel I'm pretty stern on that. The Rotella 1540, I know a ton of people that run that, and they love it. And like I said, it's quite odd that the Mexican Beetles, it is a hotter climate, straight out of the factory, 15W40. That's what they run. So if you're running 15W40, you're probably on the same page with them. It's not a bad thing at all. Don't forget to leave in the comments, though, what you want to use, what you like using. Even if you agree with me or disagree with me, we're human beings. That's what we do. This video wasn't meant to upset anybody and they pee their pants and start crying and run in the basement or something strange. Okay, sorry. No, I'm not. But the point being, that's the weights that I like to run. I've always had a lot of luck with Castor Oil GTX, but that's my input on the oil thing. Not that I'm some super duper oil guy and a beautiful engine builder on a planet that puts out anything and it don't blow up. That don't happen. That's all I have to say about that. I was trying to do a Forrest Gump thing and it didn't sound right. Don't forget Sunday Night Live chat at 8 p.m. Eastern, Christmas giveaway this Sunday so that I can get it mailed out in time for Christmas for you folks. Pretty big giveaway this year. Lots of products, different things. We had a couple members send stuff in because they wanted to help donate to the cause. So I've included stuff. 2 other members did. Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Keith. And somebody's going to get a really nice Christmas gift this year from the Slade community. So don't forget the raffle, Sunday Night Live chat at 8 p.m. Eastern. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, and we will see you Sunday night. And if you don't join in on YouTube, that's fine. I'll just talk to myself on there. See you soon.